New York City, the Big Apple, the place where dreams come true, except for 5 young Black and Hispanic men. The young men were Kevin Richardson, Raymond Santana, Antron McRae, Yusuf Salaam, and Corey Wise. They were known as the Central Park Five. On the night of April 19, 1989, the New York justice system had failed each and every one of them. This past summer, a short series written by Ava DuVernay, titled When They See Us, dropped on Netflix. This series was a true story based upon the Central Park Five. The series touched upon every aspect of the trial and case. The series did leave out a few details, however, it touched upon the most important part of this story. On the night of April 18, 1989, there was a young white woman, around 28 years old, named Trisha Melly, who was going for a jog through Central Park. That same night, there was a group of 30 or so teenagers just hanging out enjoying their time at the Central Park. It was a late night and was pretty dark outside. This is when the life of Trisha Melly had completely changed forever. At some point that night, Trisha was raped, beaten to the point where she was in coma for 12 days. 12 whole days. She was beaten so badly that they did not believe she was going to live. After waking from her coma, Trish had no recollection of what happened that night. So it was merely impossible for her to identify her attacker. Not only did she not have any memory of what happened that night, it was so dark out it would have been difficult for her to remember as well. This soon changed 5 Hispanic and Black men's lives. Who knew playing the part would end up behind bars? Officers from the NYPD started to make arrests for the assault of Trisha Melly. Kevin Richardson at age 14 was taken into custody. Raymond Santana at age 14 was also taken into custody. Antron at age 15 was taken into custody, and Yusuf Salaam was taken into custody at 16. Corey Wise was not yet taken into custody, but however, he went down to the station with Yusuf as a moral support. Corey would soon realize that it was not the best idea. The reason why this case was so well known at the time was because the victim was a white woman and the supposedly attacker were minority races. It sparked many controversial issues. But that was not the only thing that sparked the controversial issue. The interrogation itself caused many issues and problems for the New York PD. Every single one of those boys were underage, the youngest being 14 and the eldest being 15. If you got the chance to watch the series, you saw how these young men were treated while being interrogated. Not a single parent was called down to the station until after 7 hours of the boys being questioned. 7 whole hours. This shows how corrupt the NYPD was during this time. Their main focus was catching someone. It did not matter who it was, even if it was 5 innocent Black and Hispanic men. During this time, it was very easy to pin it upon those boys. The boys were very tired and hadn't eaten during the entire interrogation. This is when the detectives started to take advantage of the boys. They scared them, they intimidated them, and they threatened them. The detectives did this until the boys gave a confession. The boys stated that they were coerced by the police and gave false confessions. These boys were young and scared, and the detectives made promises that they couldn't keep. They promised that if you confess that you can go home to your families, but that was never the case. These boys won't be going back to their families anytime soon. Now, Corey Wise was not convicted until later when they thought he matched the description that the police wanted. Corey Wise was the eldest. He was 16. But there was something different about Corey. He had a learning disability. He couldn't read or write very well. So when the police questioned Corey, it was very easy to make him believe something that he didn't really do. So he ended up believing that he did assault Trisha in any way. He later then confessed to the rape of Trisha Melly. The Central Park Five had to sit through 2 long trials. After the 2 long trials, the Central Park Five were found guilty of assault, robbery, rape, and attempted murder. Altogether, they served 7 to 13 years in prison. Corey Wise, being 16, he was sentenced as an adult and spent 13 years in prison. Corey Wise had the hardest time in prison out of all of the boys. He was tried as an adult, so he didn't go to a juvenile hall at all. He went straight to a prison. And during their years in prison, many bad things had happened to them. They were assaulted, raped, beaten, and treated unjust for a crime that they did not even commit. Even the guards took place in on the beating and being treated unfairly. 30 years later, this is still a major issue in today's society. A lot of black men and women are treated unfairly in the justice system, as well as Hispanics and Latinos. People are being put into prison and jail for crimes that they did not commit just because they fit the description. In this particular situation, they had no real evidence on the boys. They found DNA on Trisha that did not match any of the boys, but yet were still convicted and tried. The justice system has failed many people of color. This story makes it very clear how unjust and corrupt the justice system can be. Social media has played a huge role with the unrest in this justice system. During 1991, the same time as the Central Park 5, there was another African-American male that was beaten by the police. It took place in Los Angeles, and it was the first video of police brutality to ever be recorded. After this video came out to the public eye, that is when everything bad became loose. Riots started to break out, more than 50 people were killed, and 2,000 were injured. But over 9,500 people were arrested during these riots. To this day, social media plays a huge part in our lives. Every day you can see or find a video of a police attacking an innocent black person. Trayvon Martin's case was very famous because the man who shot and killed Trayvon Martin was off duty and had no reason to kill him at all whatsoever. Trayvon Martin's case was very famous because the man who shot and killed Trayvon Martin was off duty and had no reason to kill him at all whatsoever. Not only did he kill him, but he did not receive any time behind bars. The Hate That You Give is a movie which came out not that long ago, and it is another example of what it's like living in society as a minority. It uses two young African-American teenagers who were driving at night, got pulled over, and the boy was shot by the police officer and killed, which is something that happens every day in our everyday lives, and it's real life now. All of these things tie in together with the police brutality, the false conviction of 5 innocent boys. Today is very serious in society of the unjust justice system,